Hi, I'm Matt with Hoboken Horology, and today I'd like to talk to you about the Breitling Cosmonaute. Now, the reason I bought this watch is I wanted a Navitimer, but I wanted it a little bit different. And before I really knew anything about watches, or before I really seriously went into collecting watches, I really looked at all the staples of companies: the Rolex Submariner, the Omega Speedmaster, the Zenith El Primero, the Tag Heuer Monaco, and of course the Breitling Navitimer. And the Navitimer was always on a list of watches that I wanted. It was always on there. There was the slide rule bezel that was so different. The dial is very loud, very in your face. They make beautiful bracelets. A lot of people talk about their cases a lot, how great they are. I actually, like IWC, I think makes the best watch cases. But you know, there was a lot of reasons I wanted a Navitimer, and the Cosmonaute was, to me, that next step. It was a very busy dial. There was a lot going on with it. And today this reference is the A33233, or it's the A22322. I'll have it right in the description. But this one is an ETA-based movement, and basically the original Cosmonaute was the first wrist chronograph to travel in space. Now I know I've seen a Russian chronograph that apparently predates the Cosmonaute, but according to Breitling, it's the first chronograph worn in space. Scott Carpenter, he wanted a wristwatch that would have 24-hour display. And I believe they were using Navitimers, or Navitimer was the most popular pilot's watch, or apparently it always has been according to Breitling, and still is. So they developed a watch with a 24-hour display that was on the Navitimer dial. Of course, the Navitimer dial back then was a little bit more simple than what it looks like now. But basically, they had the Cosmonaute, and they released it. And then after that, there was a re-release. I believe I might be wrong about this one, but the first one was there was a re-release of it, and then there was one in the 90s, which had a see-through case back. And I actually really don't like the one from the 90s that much at all. And they were limited edition. And then there was another one, which is this one. And this has very much a Navitimer, except that it has characteristics of the Cosmonaute, which I'll go into when I get close with the watch. I'm going to do a close-up where we can talk about the specifics on the watch. And then after that, they did the current version, which is the in-house movement. I can guarantee you it's very close to what the regular one is. They just add more, they just make it longer for the wheel to go a full rotation. Instead of 12 hours being a full rotation, it's 24 hours. It's not that complicated, but this is complicated because it is a flyback chronograph, and it is a date watch, and also it has the slide rule bezel. So it's a very complicated watch, and every inch of it is used in a very utilitarian way. And let's go close to it. So right now I have it on the strap, but a Breitling leather strap, but I will go into the bracelet. So let's go. So the Breitling Navitimer, here's a interesting page from the boutique, the Breitling boutique. They go through the history of it. And you can notice just off the bat, the new one, the date window on the new Navitimer, the new Cosmonaute, it has a red date window, whereas mine right here has a black one. Actually, let me go through, and actually, you know what? I'm trying to move the hands out of the way. And if I go out one more, we can do the quick, okay, bring the date to 1. So let's go through the Cosmonaute. The interesting thing about this watch is that the 24 dial actually makes things, for me, it was definitely making things a little bit difficult to read at first. You really have to get used to the dial. I mean, I say that about every watch, is that I have to get used to reading it. I mean, it sounds a little silly, but it is true that some watches are more difficult to read than others, and you definitely have to get used to some of them. So if we go in here and we begin the chronograph, it will go all the way around until it's done timing. But if I hit the, now again, as I said, this is a flyback chronograph, so if I hit the reset, it will fly back to the top and begin again immediately. Now, this works really well if you're timing multiple events. If you're timing multiple things quickly, you can go back to start. So if I'm timing something for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and I tell them, okay, time, and they take out their item, maybe they're cooking, and then the next one has to be 5 minutes, you would hit the reset button and then you would know you have to wait till 5 minutes. It's just a quicker way to use it. I'm sure the military has not application for it. Here's the slide rule bezel. I actually had this going, see, it turns pretty well in a specific position, and it always turns really well easy clockwise. Counterclockwise, I feel like it gets a little stuck sometimes. But there is a quick solution to this, and that is you take dental floss, the thin one, and you run it through the bezel. And I strung it through a bunch of times to get this fixed and working the way I wanted it. The clasp is quite nice on it. It's one of the nicest ones I've had. The only thing I don't like is it is a little thick on the bottom, but you get this really nice look. Also, the way that the strap is held in is fantastic. I prefer it so much to holes. I mean, this is a little bit perfect on me right now, see? But I had this really tight when I first started, and I really liked it, how tight it was. It was really nice to have it like that. And the back of it, so if I take this apart, which I will do for the demonstration, it feeds through a little bit like that. You can tell it's a little worn. The back of this is my favorite part of this watch, actually. It has a Fahrenheit to Celsius, and you can do that on the slide rule, but it has a Fahrenheit to Celsius convert, and it also has that A22322, which is the reference. So that's the nice part about this watch, and I really gotta say it's fantastic, but look at this. This bracelet, this already stands out enough on its own, right? But this bracelet really, really makes it stand out. I mean, you flick this open. I had a lot of problems. You can't really do it from that end. You have to anchor it from the back, and it kicks it right open like that. It is really nice. The only thing I will say is that this sucker is pretty heavy. I wear my sub all week. I wear it, the first couple days I wore this, I took it off and I was like, that is a heavy watch. I was like, with the bracelet, it's quite heavy. But you can imagine, I mean, just look up the pictures online. Also, I have to say, this might be the most comfortable bracelet I've ever worn. Yes, I am in love with the Black Bay, the Tudor Black Bay Heritage ETA bracelet. I've talked about that. I talked about how I like that Tudor Black Bay bracelet more than I like my Rolex bracelets. But I gotta tell you, this bracelet is fantastic. It's better than mesh because it's more solid, it's shiny, it stands out so much, and with that kind of dial, with all those numbers, it's just, it feels amazing. The only reason I took it off is because I wanted it to be lighter. I was wearing it to work every day, and I wanted a lighter watch, and I kind of wanted that leather Navitimer look, that look I see on all the ads. I'm in Hoboken, as in Hoboken Horology, and there's a lot of Navitimer ads I see, actually, and I wanted this leather look with the Navitimer. But let me talk about the dial real quick. I just want to talk about 24-hour dials and about reading them. So this watch specifically is a little difficult to read, but I will tell you something I did notice that I really like a lot, is that every number, let me get a wooden pointer here, something that I can dictate with, and I have all these tools and spring bars on my desk. It's a little ridiculous sometimes. So this guy is the 5 minutes, and then the 10 minutes, 15 of course, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. So just look for the numbers when you're reading the 24-hour bezel. I mean, the 24-hour dial. And the numbers, if you think of it as in a full half day is there, just glancing down, thinking in quarter, quarter day, half day, 3/4 of a day, and a full day, it does make it quicker. You can just look at 2200 and you know that you're at 10 o'clock. That's where it gets kind of weird, is that this is like 11 and 12. For me personally, that's where it makes it weird, because like if you stay up late at night, seeing it at like 2 in the morning, it's a bizarre thing to get used to. And I just, this watch is built for a purpose. The only big negative I would say about this watch is the water resistance. It usually comes on leather, and the water resistance not great. It's good for a chronograph. I think I don't know, maybe it's on here. I'm just taking it out of the camera so I can take a closer look. Yeah, I don't see the water resistance. But this watch, it's funny, the original that Scott Carpenter wore on the Aurora 7, he actually apparently destroyed from when he landed back into the ocean. Apparently his watch was destroyed. You can see some blue. I think they have some AR coating on there. The dial, though, you get used to it. I can guarantee you, I looked online before I bought this watch, like, is there any specific tips or tricks to reading a 24-hour dial, and nobody offered any, because it's really not that difficult. You will get used to it. It is something to get used to, though, and it's something to really think about. I noticed Breitling released one of their watches as a 24-hour dial. It's probably in this book. And then they went back and they re-released it as a 12-hour dial. So that just goes to show you that, people look at it and they're like, oh, that's interesting, but, is it really going to be, shouldn't I just get a 12-hour dial and, kind of save myself the punishment of trying to read 24 hours all day? The case, though, is very nice, and the watch sits very nice. It sits nice. It has that flashy appeal. It really, really does. I hate to use the B word and say it's the bling factor, or how blingy the watch is. With the bracelet on, I've been in elevators at work, and people get in that work from my office, people that get in that don't work from my office, and like I will catch people looking at this piece and looking at how it looks and how busy it is, especially with that bracelet. It's so shiny. So let me take this back out and put this down. I do want to just say some closing comments real quick. Now, this watch is designed with that purpose in mind, with that idea that, things are made for specific use, for a specific reason. And what's great about this watch is that it's an automatic, okay? It's got a solid case back, and the case back has information that you would actually use. If you're in Europe or you're watching something foreign and you see Celsius come up real quick, you can pop the watch off. I know how it sounds. A lot of people aren't going to do this, but you can pop the watch off and you can see the Celsius to Fahrenheit conversion. That just blew my mind. Like, it's just amazing. And it's got the Breitling insignia. It's got the reference number with the serial number. It's everything you would need on a case back, right? It's everything you would need on a case back. So it's got the case back, it's got the chronograph, and it's got a flyback chronograph. Not every chronograph is a flyback, actually, most aren't. This is a flyback chronograph. It's got a date window, and it's got a 24-hour display, which is considered a complication. I would consider it a different type of watch, but then again, it's not like you would buy a 10-hour watch or something like that. I would just consider this a different type of watch. I wouldn't consider the 24 hours a complication. I would just consider it a 24-hour watch. And it's odd to say that we would consider that a different type of watch, but it just is. It's just, there's two types of watches. There's 12-hour and 24-hour. And this would be a 24-hour watch. But between that, you've got 12 hours, you got the date, flyback, you got that bezel where you can do calculations. I didn't even take this guy out right here. Breitling gives you this so you can learn how to use a slide rule without having to sit there and turn it on the bezel the whole time. This watch is It's a staple in horology. That's what it is. Not the not the Cosmonaute, but the Navitimer is a staple in horology. It's a staple for Breitling. It is, I'm sure, one of Breitling's #1 selling watches. It is the dial you think of. It is one of the top, probably one of the top 3 chronographs in the world. Easily, it would be on my top 3 chronograph list. I'm gonna make a top 5 chronograph list, which is, if you've been watching, you know, other watch channels, you probably already know what the top 5 chronographs in the world are. There's only so many really historic chronographs out there that really could make a list like that. But between the bracelet and the strap, you know, you couldn't go wrong either way. The strap won't always last forever. That's the one thing. The bracelet will. It will last forever, you know. That type of bracelet, once I put it on the watch, I had it on there for a very long time before I switched back to the leather band. But it's a fantastic watch. It really is. Whether you go for a Cosmonaute or a Navitimer, I hate to use the word review. I had the intention of reviewing lots of watches when I started this channel. I've gone through a lot of watches. I've sold some of the watches I've shown on my channel, and I've never reviewed them. But, you know, there's enough channels for that. For this, I'll probably say this video is a review. It's really my impressions, because simply there's not a lot of reviews on this watch. There's not a lot of people who own or even want a Cosmonaute. It's kind of a niche watch. It's a Navitimer, but it's a 24-hour display. It's a little bit more complicated to read. There's so many different versions of the Cosmonaute. Personally, I would buy the non-date one. That's what I would do. It's cleaner. It looks better. They're more expensive though. Also, they're very patinaed. I like that this one, the patina the dial is perfect. I actually think that a lot of the older Cosmonautes, they're all, you know, the lume is all yellowed and patinaed over. The dial, I would say that I definitely prefer this one to the other ones I've seen online. But you know, that's my video on the Breitling Cosmonaute. Hopefully that helped. You know, you can ask me questions if you want a follow-up video. I'm always open to it. Anything that I feel is a comment that I feel that I should respond to in a video, I'll definitely be open to it. And if you're a subscriber of the channel, I'm sorry that the videos are taking so long to get out. I have been kind of busy lately. I've been moving some watches, which actually takes a lot of time because I'm either researching or I'm speaking to someone, and what ends up being a 5-minute email, it turns out being an hour. You know, it's just time kind of has been getting away from me. So I'm doing my best. But again, if there's any video requests out there, let me know and I will do my best to oblige to that request. Thank you for watching.